folks, and welcome to the Snowy's Camping Show with Ben and Lauren. How are you, Ben?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad at all. We've recently moved offices as well, so we're back in the podcast room at our old joint, aren't we, until this whole studio moves. So next
You've
time
got another move. Yeah.
Another move, yep. So next time you see us, things might look a little bit different.
Yep.
But we're hoping they'll be mostly the same.
So it's just us in a little podcast studio in a otherwise empty office here at the moment.
It is, which is a bit creepy.
And
but
we can leave the door open.
We can. But before we get into the episode today, don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to your podcast, whether that be on YouTube or your favourite podcast app. And also don't forget to jump into the Snowy's Camping Banter group on Facebook. Now, we've got a pretty good episode, I think, for the send-off of this little pokey podcast studio today.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yep.
Yeah, and that is an interview with Oztrail, and we've got Michael and Ben. Hey, guys, how are you?
Very well, guys. How are you?
How you doing?
Good. So
very well.
Two Bens today.
Yeah, this won't get confusing at all.
No.
All right, I'll be B1, you be B2.
Hang on a second.
We'll just sort that out now.
I guess we could be guests first. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Big brand for us. Oztrail's been in the range. I mean, I've been to Snowy's for over 10 years and Oztrail's always been a prominent brand within any store and online. And I don't know any camper out there who wouldn't know or at least own an Oztrail product.
No, and I'm pretty sure from memory that my first ever tent was an Oztrail tent. And when I say my first ever tent, I could get this wrong, and now you guys will probably correct me if I've got this wrong, but I'm 38 now and I was 12. So what's that, 26 years ago?
You put me on the spot there.
Oh, that's maths, right? 26 years, 12, 26 years.
Yep.
So 26 years ago, would you guys have been doing tents 26 years ago? Please tell me, because I'm pretty sure it was an Oztrail.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Lauren.
sweet.
Australia's been around for 30 plus years. So,
yeah, right.
And, hugely popular from the word go.
Yeah. So I remember my mum and dad came home and we used to do family camping, and we had those huge big canvas Legionnaire sort of style tents and everything. And they came home one day and had this little present for me, and I'm like, what is this? And they're like, set it up. And it was a dome tent, like this little sort of 3-4 person-ish dome tent.
Latest technology.
It was silver and navy blue, like latest technology. It was Oztrail, and I thought that I was the best and the coolest because I had my own little tent, and not just was it my own very first tent, but it was a dome tent. So yes, definitely a very big brand, I think, which formulates a lot of people's camping memories.
Yeah, across lots of categories too, which we'll dive into a bit today. But firstly, a bit more on you guys. Your roles and what role do you play within the Oztrail brand?
Yeah, I'll kick off if you don't mind. So, Michael, I've been with Oztrail and our parent company, Adventure Operations, for nearly 4 years. My background is really outdoor focused, though. So I grew up in country Tasmania, hunting, fishing, camping at every opportunity, and I guess all of my weekends, directed towards those activities. So really exciting to be part of this business. I'm one of the sales leads within the business and look after Snowy's as an account, the best outdoor retailer in the industry.
Did you need to say that?
I swear to God, this is a free interview.
But look, I'm blessed in that not only do I get to play with some really cool stuff, but I get to do this for a job, just like you guys. And we'll talk a little bit about where Oztrail has come from and where it's going and how exciting that is. But it is super cool to be sitting in this seat and great to have Benny with us here today.
Yeah. I mean, hard to follow that one, I guess. But yeah, for my roles in the business, so category manager. Look after anything pretty much. Sit under for shade, so gazebos, awnings and the like, anything you sleep in, so tents and swags and pretty much everything in between, along with a few other categories as well. Been with the business about 3 and a bit years now, and then previously that still in the camping industry on a retail front for about 10 and a half years before that. So yeah, pretty much similar to Michael, live and breathe outdoors, camping, forward driving, fishing, and just getting out and about really is what I'm about. So Yeah,
and I think that progression as well. I don't know if it's the same for you, Ben, but for me it was, and I'm pretty sure for our B2 here it was as well. But when you sort of have that lifestyle and you grow up in it, and then you work in retail and you have that touch and feel and that everyday hands-on use of the products, and then you transition into more of a back of the house sort of position for a retailer or a brand, it just gives you a really unique perspective on how to get the very best out of your gear and how to pick good gear and how to design good gear and how to give people the really best that you can and balance sort of all of those different requirements. And I think that perspective is something that you can only really get if you've had the benefit of that, like lots of different layers of that onion, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think you touch on a good point there, saying helping other people too with the once you know more about it, to help with the brands that work. You're not just selling a product, you're selling a lifestyle. Which is really cool.
And I think, Ben, also we'll touch on that a bit more for you later in the podcast, because you've had some really what's the word?
Laura's lost for words a bit today. I don't know what's going on.
No. You've had a really great influence, I guess, or impact on Oztrail with some of the new gear that's coming out. So we'll pick your brains a bit more on that a bit later. But Michael, let's go back to you with more of the history of Oztrail and the origins of the brand.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. So Oztrail's been around for 30 plus years, really well known within camping. And like yourself, Lauren, most people have purchased or been given a piece of camping equipment that was made by Oztrail. So I guess the industry as well as the business has evolved a lot over 30 years. I remember myself going in and buying our first family size tent, and it was a big Oztrail thing out of BCF many years ago, and all the accoutrements that go with that. Coming into this business, it was a bit of a whirlwind in that Oztrail, being around for so long, it had also been purchased by Adventure Operations, which you see on our shirts. Adventure Operations have a number of other brands, so Companion, Campfire, Roam and hiking gear, as well as we've acquired Ozpig in the past couple of years. So that all happened around COVID. So not only were we bringing two big businesses together and a whole bunch of brands, as well as the craziness that was COVID and camping in Australia, it was a crazy time and a crazy place to be. However, what that did do, it allowed us to bring in a bunch of people and sit down and go, what does the future look like for Oztrail as a brand in particular, and what we do with the rest of our brands? Because Oztrail had like 3,000 different products at that point in time. So it's like, well, let's get really clear on what the brand means to us as well as the consumer, and then what does the future look like to be the most effective and I guess efficient at what we do, but also be reliable for the consumer. So everything we do in our business is all about making it easy to connect you to your adventure. That's what we live and breathe. So we didn't want to walk away from, I guess, the entry-level consumers that were getting into camping because of a brand like Oztrail. We wanted to make sure they could rely upon that entry-level gear, but then also walk them through, I guess, their camping journey, going from entry-level, so a good, better, best strategy. And now we're really pushing the upper envelope of that and really excited about what's I guess, in the future for us.
So you're still maintaining a good, better, best strategy? Because I've always seen Oztrail as very much covering the entire gamut there. People could come in and buy, if I use a camp chair as an example, you could get a really basic quad-fold camp chair at a really affordable price, something you'd buy if you didn't even know if you liked camping, but you were trying to set up a basic kit. But then you also had something far more comfortable that was priced up within the sort of medium to high end as well. So is that still where you see the Oztrail brand sitting?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we don't want to walk away from getting people into what we love doing. We just want to make them have more fun when they do it. So to be able to rely upon that entry-level chair, but then pick something that's a little bit more comfy. But then also those, like myself and Ben, we're lucky to have access to a whole bunch of gear, but to go for some really top-of-the-range stuff, like we've got recycled canvas materials in awesome chairs now, which not only have the form and function, but they look super hot as well. So
I think to add to that point as well, it's like how do we make things better as well? Like obviously known for that space, and it's what if we made the bag a little bit bigger, or what if we made the material a heavy duty, or whatever it may be, to go, we live and breathe it and go, well, you know what, let's do that, and all of a sudden you got something new to talk about, because what's old is new again sometimes. On those core products, like the chair, it could be changing the cup holder, or whatever it may be. But I think we've got a really clear idea in terms of who we are and what we've been doing the past few years, and then as we touched on, we go, what's next for us as well. So I think being trusted is really important to us, and I think being with the outdoor person on their journey to go from, it may be an airbed. I'll pick on airbeds as an example, to go, I'll buy a $50 airbed and go, oh, actually, I want a self-inflating mattress now because it's more comfortable, or it's, it's this and it's that, and go, well, we've got that option, right? And then it's like, what else is missing from our range to have the whole offering for everyone?
Yeah, we won't be, just on that, though, we won't be the one-stop shop for every single thing. We need to make sure that it makes sense for our consumers and who we target, and not just throw a whole heap of product to try to capture everyone.
Yep.
But we want to be able to explain the step from an entry-level sleeping bed to a foam mattress to a self-inflating mattress, and for it to make sense. So once again, making it easier for the consumer to walk through, okay, that's how that works.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I just want to, before we move on, I want to backtrack to, you mentioned Oztrail being acquired by Adventure Ops and also with Ozpig. Talk to me about how you guys feel about that, working within a brand that has been acquired, because I know sometimes within the community there can be a perception that when something like this happens, that a brand loses its essence, or it's not what it used to be. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, Lauren, because I understand where the question's coming from. The reality is that we still have the DNA of Oztrail, the original Oztrail within the business. So Oztrail as a business was started by the Whitakers 30 plus years ago. Still got Andrew Whitaker sitting at the table just outside here. So not only him, we've got multiple employees that have been in the business over 20 years. What we have done, and I think that's where the acquisition was such a huge positive thing for Oztrail, is that an injection of funds,
okay,
which came into the business, which allowed us to increase our footprint in the sourcing area, so overseas. So we have more people on the ground overseas to have better sourcing conversations, but also the people that were brought into this business have a huge amount of knowledge within the industry. Like, Ben, how many years were you in retail before you came in?
Oh, good 10 plus years. Yeah,
10 plus years in retail as the number one guy in store. So we brought professionals into the business. So we still have the DNA of Oztrail, but now we've refined it. So it's still the same people that you would have seen potentially 10 years ago in some instances. However, we've just refined it. So we still have, I guess, very much an Aussie focus within the business. The DNA is the same.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think it's really good opportunity to, I touched on at the start around like making those little changes to make things better as well. And it's not walking away from any parts of the categories or brands. It's just making it better, and what else is next, which is.
And I guess I can't comment too much on what the business used to be like 10, 15 years ago. I've been here nearly 4 years. However, one thing that has been amazing for me coming into this business is how agile it is. For us to make a change in a product or make a decision, it is seriously one conversation with the CEO who's sitting right there if required. Otherwise, we've got the power to go, oh, you know what? I want to improve this on the product because it makes it better for the consumer. And it just happens. So with acquisitions that I've been in the past outside of this industry, you go to these huge multinationals and it takes forever to get anything done. We make decisions on the fly if we know it makes sense.
Yeah, right.
I reckon you can see it in the product range nowadays too. It's it was always good, but it's now it's got a little bit more polish. The packaging, how it appears, the way it operates, it's still the same quality or same good value Oztrail product, just with a little bit extra. So I guess that aligns with what you're saying. With that acquisition comes that injection of funds and investment in the product.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I think probably the first time I sort of stopped and I was like, ooh, was when you guys did Cape Series, because it was quite different to your normal, quad fold chairs and your sort of same old backbone products, I guess. And I thought, oh, this is interesting. And then your new colours on your Drover sleeping bags and your Jindabyne and whatever, it's starting to, I think from my perspective, and I don't want to offend anybody here, but like your Oztrail used to be good old run of the mill, and now it's starting to look really good. And I think for me personally, that often is a very telling sign within a brand when they start to make stuff that really consciously links together and looks good, that things are moving in a great direction.
Especially some of this new stuff that we'll touch on shortly. Yeah. Looks really, really schmick.
All right, on that, let's move into more of a ranging discussion, because I think we're heading there anyway.
We are.
Earlier you talked about, refining products and things like updating little cup holders and bits and pieces. I think whenever people think Oztrail, there's a couple of key products that people might automatically think of, right? And so I think one of those would be like your Galaxy chair, because, that's a really great Pioneer multi-seater chair. People with their dogs, they get up and cozy and comfortable and lay on it and all sorts of stuff. And I'm sure, you'd probably have the same. If you think Oztrail, you might go gazebos, or someone will think Oztrail and immediately. So there's a lot of product association there. How do you guys choose what stays in your range sort of season to season? What goes? What gets updated? Like, what's your process with that?
Yeah, it really is a massive process, which is always evolving as well in terms of how do we get processes better to make product better. And so, once a year we'll sit down within the product team and go, cool, let's review the year that was, numbers, market trends, and a bunch of other things, and go, cool, what's next, right? And so, like a good example of what's next might be our stretch tents that I redid recently, where it's like, let's update the colour, because colour is so important to product.
Definitely is.
Big lines books.
Material spec and those kind of things. And go, cool, how do we do those things better? And then equally, what is next for our brand and category? And something that we're obviously very strong in is shade and shelter in general. And it's like, cool, we don't have a rooftop tent business. And that's something we feel like we could step into. And there's a bunch of other things that we look at, but more importantly, it's like, where do we think we're going to sit in the market for this product? What are we well known for? What's a bit of a reach where we're like, that's probably not the Oztrail consumer. So yeah, there's a bunch of different things, and we'll work really close with our sales leads and across the whole organization, to be honest, to go, well, hey guys, like, what do you think? So it could be pick out any department and go, hey guys, like, what do you think we need in our range? And they're like, oh yeah, what if you did this or that? And you're like, cool, yeah, great idea, love it, or maybe not, or like my OneNote is forever full with ideas to go, what else do we add in? So yeah, like step one is reviewing, and then building that into our process that we're very rigid in, but forever evolving.
How about reviewing a current range? Like I think probably goes to that same, but you would listen to consumer feedback on a product that's out there. Like, how often does that happen, to review and improve an existing product rather than just keep adding to new?
Yeah, and something that's a really good example is our new Portico gazebo tent that's I think it just actually landed. So hopefully you guys will have them in soon.
Yeah, nice.
Where we had some customer feedback come through going, hey, like, what if you guys did this or did that? And we're like, cool, let's keep her details on file. And then we send them one of the new ones. Like, hey, here's your feedback in person. Here's a freebie. And they're like, oh my God, like how good is this? And
That's
we're like,
cool.
yeah, we actually, that feedback is really important to us. And we do kind of follow through on it. And some ideas where you're like, oh, it's a bit left of field, maybe not. But there's a bunch of examples where we'll keep customers' details on file for that reason. To go, hey, like, great idea. There you go. And
that's really cool. Yeah. I think sorry, but you're right, Michael.
Yeah, you're right. It's not only consumers as well. So as a sales lead within the business, we listen to what your guys say as well. So your guys are seeing the consumers in the store. So we get a lot of feedback from your staff. And to be honest, like I said before, we can make the changes really quickly. So it's constantly evolving. However, we will also assess stuff that's underperforming. So as Ben said, we'll do a review. If we've got product that isn't performing where we expect it to be, first we ask why. Did we miss the mark? Is there something that needs to be improved? Is the market still there? And if not, it's okay to put it to bed and focus on what will work and what is better for the end user.
I think it's probably a really good segue to our next point here, because I think consumers probably under the perception that some brands just mass produce, don't necessarily listen to feedback and just keep pushing the same thing out there because it's what they want to sell. You mentioned before being nimble as a business, but how does that work? Or how do you often, I suppose, do you communicate with your manufacturing arms, your
product design teams,
product
like
design
all of that?
teams, how?
So you're the one lost for words now. I'm sorry, I have to take the opportunity to get it back when I can.
Factory is the word I'm looking for. I'm assuming, there's more than just a mass produce out of a factory. There's a bit of communication back and forth there.
Oh, absolutely. Like I'm talking to our, whether it's our China team or our suppliers directly, like daily. Like it, and there'll be some cases where I'm developing a range, or anyone else in the team, and we're on weekly catch-ups with the supplier and go, cool, like here's the 10 points we need to talk about, or the 10 improvements we need to make, and make sure everyone's really clear on it, or what we can do or what we can't do. And that's really important to us is we work really closely with our team up in Asia for that reason, to make sure that we can do things efficiently with being quick, but also making sure we get it right. So there's a lot of steps in the process to going, cool, sample done of one of our tents. Okay, cool, go put it in the rain room. Does it leak?
Yeah, right.
Yes or no? Okay, cool. This part failed. All right, we need to move this seam here, or whatever it may be. Okay, cool, test it again. And then it's like, all right, if you can pass the rain room, which is a lot of water, we'll then send it to me in Brisbane or whoever, and okay, cool, let's go take it out to the field and do some real world testing and go, oh, you know what, it's actually a bit short, let's make it a bit taller, or whatever the examples are. So
how do you guys then incorporate this very sort of extensive sort of product development phase? How do you then sort of incorporate that with keeping your product at a price point that is achievable for a large range of the population now, especially with the economy going the way it is?
A lot of hard work.
A lot of hard work, but then also being uncompromising as well. So we are not going to launch a product that doesn't meet expectations. And if it doesn't, then we assess why. The pricing thing's really tough. So whether it be currency or raw materials, the stuff that we can't control is stuff we can't control. So there may be times where we can't hit, I don't know, we want to have integrated lighting in everything. Well, maybe we can do it for this section of the range, but let's still pull out the lighting and have an entry-level tent, so we still have that consumer that can meet that price point. So it's really about being able to have a range of products, so we're still not missing out. Not we're missing out, but the consumers aren't missing out on what they expect from us as well.
You touched before about, your China team, and I know that there can be a consensus that stuff manufactured in China equals rubbish, essentially, which we all know working in the industry isn't the case because of, that
depends on the brand.
The advancements in manufacturing in that industry in China, it just means that things are achievable there that you can't get out of other manufacturing nations. But in terms of when you're designing and developing products, to what extent do you have control over the componentries and the materials and the actual spec of what you're having manufactured?
So I think, can I just grab this one, Ben? Firstly, that's the second step. The first step is making sure that we've got the right suppliers, the factories that are supplying in scale to not only Australia, but the US, to Europe, that we can essentially assess, are we working with the right supplier that's going to meet the expectations that we have? Do they then have a scale overseas that potentially we can piggyback off to ensure that we're getting the quality of product that we need without having to build 10,000 units? however, be uncompromising on what we expect coming back the other way.
Yeah, which really falls back to testing, right? Because they're like getting that part is really important. Then it's like, cool, you think you got that right, and then it's like put in a rain room and you'll soon find out, right? Or send me through the UV grade test to go, like, is it actually UV treated?
Mm-hmm.
If so, what grade is it? If so, show me the report. And like, there's a bunch of things that we do to ensure, we cover that part. And then thirdly, it's like, all right, let's get it out here and take it out for a camp on the weekend and go, oh yeah, it is waterproof.
Mm-hmm.
There's a new swag that we're bringing out soon where it's been through all the lab testers and all the rest of it. And then we took it on a content shoot a couple of weeks ago and like just bucketed down for like an hour straight, just uncompromising. And, we're standing up under the gazebo. It's just like, all right, well, this is a good test for it. And there was someone in there sleeping in there in the morning, like, how'd you go? It's like, not one drop.
Yeah, right.
Like, how good? So we're like, cool, I can put my name, like, we can put our name next to that as the brand owners and go, yep, we're behind that.
But also, there's a piece of accountability within that as well. So it's actually Ben putting his name to that because he's the category manager. So if that tent or swag in this occasion did fail and leak, it's his name that's against it. So there is, being the business that we are, we're not thousands of people. We have so much accountability over each of our roles and our products and what we do that Ben wouldn't allow that to occur.
No.
Yeah, I think I was actually, before you mentioned that, Michael, I was going to sort of chime in with the same thing with me because I know, Ben, your face is physically on the promotional videos and things for this product as well. It's not just your name. And I know, Ben and I have that conversation sometimes when we're going to do product reviews and things like that. And, our face is all over the Snowies brand and we do product reviews and it's sort of it's our personal investment in a product realistically when you're going to do that. So there is that that level of personal commitment to what you're producing.
So you have like an active team in China that's there for, I guess I'm touching on quality control, the trust you have over the reports you get on fabric. You've got a step up there so you know that what you're getting is the real deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, as an example might be when we're shipping out a new item for the first time, we'll get a third-party company to go in that will send me like a 200-page report for 4 products, and it'll review like every single like centimeter of the product, and then equally our team will be over there at the same time doing the same thing. And there's also, I think the importance, we touched on is partnering with the right people, and we obviously have that trust that we know they're not going to do the wrong thing, but equally we're making sure that we've got other processes in place to make sure that everyone's following through on all their parts. So
but the China team are essential for what we do, being able to do it, how we do it, especially over the recent years with the COVID situation, lockdowns and shipping, having a local team there that has direct contact with all of our suppliers and is vetting the supplier as well as the product. We couldn't do what we do without them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can imagine it would be a nightmare without having the feet on the ground in that country.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As just as important as anyone else. Like, it's just absolute, like,
So I'm going to steer this direction now into the Overland range.
Yep.
And I do want to say that when I first saw you guys launch this range, I thought to myself, it's a gutsy move. It's a gutsy move because you're stepping into a space that is very different to what you would have been associated with before. And Ben, this is your baby, right? Am I correct in that?
Yeah. So it's about, let me think back. I was probably about 6 months in. We're like, all right, we're doing it. I'm like, all right, deep breath, let's go.
All right. So give us a rundown of what the Overland range is.
Yeah, so essentially what it is kind of, we talk around good, better, best, and it is absolutely our best in terms of price point, but also quality and comfort's a really big, quality and comfort were two of the biggest kind of pillars that I looked at when doing it. So obviously covers off rooftop tents. So the 3 models in that range, there's something in there for everybody depending on, car or price point or whatever it may be. Awnings. So obviously Oztrail is very well known for shelter and shade. So side awning, so they're rectangular or square shapes off the side. And then our 270 awning, which are obviously very popular in market. And then lastly, our swag range. So this was, I had a lot of fun with the swags in particular. But yeah, so swag, so two models and then a swag awning that you can use to link together as an accessory as well. So that's kind of, I guess, very quickly in terms of product. But, I touched on quality and comfort in the range, and, that can look different in certain products. So, for awning, for example, obviously it's not going to have a mattress. So I think when most people think comfort, they think, head on pillow, whereas, using our blockout fabric, our blackout coating on the fabric is something you probably see across a bunch of our products in tents and gazebos. And so that was a really key feature for us when doing the range, was how do we make it better? And it really does make it more comfortable. Like, I've been under, thousands of different awnings in the market, every shape and size or whatever it may be. And I just found that blockout coating really does make a big difference. Mate.
Yeah, it's massive. Like, it's funny sitting around the table when developing a product. I get really excited because I'm the target consumer. So it's awesome to be able to go, oh, that's awesome, Ben, or have you thought about this? And like,
this is what I want, Ben.
Exactly. It's like going to Santa Claus and saying this is not only what I want, but how I want it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for us and being part of the sales team, it was essential to not go into this half-hearted and not go in as a me too that goes, oh, I just want a piece of that market for the sake of it.
Yeah.
We wanted to present something to the consumer that gets them excited. Mm-hmm. But if it gets them excited, then it needs to perform as well. So the awnings, like Ben touched on it, putting a really good quality blockout awning just changed the whole awning scene, in that not only do you get a little bit of shade with a non-blockout awning, but this thing cools it down. If I'm sitting up the beach on Bribey Island, not only do I get the shade, but it's also cooler when it's 35 degrees. And then taking it to the next level, looking at the little differences that Ben brought into it. So seam sealing on an awning, that just the zippers are amazing. The little bits and pieces that make it just go from just an awning to go, oh yeah, I really enjoy using it. That's the level and the commitment that Ben and the team put into it, and the China sourcing team as well. But as a salesperson within the business, it was so cool to go, okay, Oztrail companion bits and pieces are all, they're great. Let's go after something that's really fun. And it also it increased our, I guess, where our products are used. So getting more into that four-wheel drive, a bit more hardcore space with Oztrail, it supports a whole bunch of off-grid stuff that we do under Companion as well. So yeah, it's been super, super fun.
All right, so I want to flesh out the Overland Range a little bit more, and we've talked a lot about awnings, so I want to start there. One thing I sort of, it's going to be maybe a little bit more relevant when we touch on the swags, is that it's quite unusual for a brand. The only other really brands that I know or I can think of is like Zempire and Cedar Summit. They would be the standouts. But now Oztrail with this Overlander range is when you interact with a product, it's very rare to go, oh, it would have been really great if they'd thought about this. And I find with the other brands I mentioned just before, you don't have that very often because of their product development. With the new Oztrail Overlander range, it was the first time I've really honestly experienced with the brand where I've gone, it would be great if this, because then it was just there. And you guys have obviously gone through that process as well, which is, I think, pretty exciting for a camping brand like Oztrail to be moving into. Your awnings are a very cool shape. So talk me through why you've gone with the shape that you've gone with the 270s.
Yeah, so I think it's more around having usable shade. It's probably the kind of hits the nail on the head. So yes, there's a lot of different shapes on the market, which they're all 270 in their own right. And I was like, how do you get more out of the small shape or the small amount of shade that you can kind of get off your car? And so having the front awning included was a big one. So it was. Traditionally, most people in my experience, throw a swag up the front of the car because it's next to the bonnet and it's kind of out of the way, and then you're not impeding on the back of the car. So you might have a drawer or a kitchen, so you normally put it up there. And it was like, well, you don't have to have a front-facing arm up, and then you have to buy a wall, and that's all extra cost and weight. And it was like, well, if you make it longer and include poles, and you can put your swag underneath that, like tick. So I think, that was probably the biggest one, is usable space for that part.
Sorry,
just to
Ben.
explain to the customer, this is so where a typical awning would taper off to the front of the car, the Oztrail awning actually extends out as a square, and that's where the extra space is, along the front of the car.
Yes, and it's like an add-on piece. So it's not like this extra addition with a heavy arm that increases your weight of your awning and all of that sort of jazz.
And it's not just an add-on piece. So even the add-on piece, there's so much thought went into that too, Lauren. So essentially, guys, you've got an arm that comes out perpendicular to the car, and we've got a slide-in awning which goes into a sail track. But that could just be a piece of material. So Ben's gone, let's make it give it a bit more use. So not only can you peg it out so you've got that extra shade, but if you notice, if you hang it vertically, it's also got eyelets, so you can actually peg it out vertically down, so you can create a vertical wall. Those eyelets then create an anchor point to put your awning poles in, so you can create a more usable space for your swag. So even a wall, Ben's put hours and hours of development into, and it comes free. I
literally didn't mean to offend anybody with just going this piece of material.
I'm out.
Usable space, usable space, guys. Usable space.
I guess it's just far more than we've done 1-2 awning. You've taken it. You could have just done a 270 awning, but you've taken that and you've added to it with thought of the lifestyle behind it, which I think is really good.
I think thinking about it as well and going, there's obviously there's a couple of different main kind of categories that awnings fit in. There's generally freestanding, which get talked about a lot, and then there's obviously non-freestanding or more pole style awnings, and both have pros and cons, absolutely. And I was like, well, let's sit in the middle, because everyone loves freestanding because they're quick and they're easy to set up, and then, in my experience, people generally like poled awnings because they've got the pole, and if you get any massive gust of wind, it can be a little bit stronger in that point. So, something that's a bit unique to ours is they are freestanding upon setup. So you're not going to you shouldn't really hit your head when you're setting it up like you may on a poled awning. And then the arms or the legs are in the U-channel, so in the arm itself, and fold down within a matter of seconds. So you've got the poles there ready to go. So you're not having to go to the back of the car or the trailer or whatever it may be and going, where did I put this and where did I put that? They're already there, ready to go. So you kind of, in my unbiased opinion, hit the sweet spot to go. You kind of get the pros of both.
I'll have a brief aside there. On the freestanding awning topic,
I'm just so you know, if for anybody watching this on YouTube, I'm not checked out like
Lauren's
scrolling social media.
She's Instagramming at the moment. Look what I'm doing.
No, I'm just pulling up the products as we're talking.
Yeah,
so
stuff we should have researched before we came into the room. But never mind. Hey, look, I did the same thing.
I would never make a fool of myself. Just saying, but
the freestanding awning, I always found that a funny thing. They're freestanding for sure, but there seems to be so many. It depends on attached to that, because it can be freestanding provided the consumer's attached it to something suitable on the vehicle to make it freestanding, because the awning might all be in one piece, but the roof rack that it's attached to is broken in that gust of wind. So we won't go into too much detail, but what's your take on the freestanding awning topic?
I think it's really great on setup, but if you read into a lot of information around it, there's a lot of terms and conditions applied to warranty, or you need to do this to ensure this. And that was my read on it, was people are buying in because they're quick to set up, and people buy a poled awning because they're maybe price point, or they pack up a little bit smaller, but having the pole already out makes it stronger. So I think without going back to my previous point, it's really like ours kind of pick the best of both.
Yeah, and also the variability, and you touched on it yourself, Ben, on how you mount the awning to the vehicle. There are so many, I guess, variables in mounting and what you're mounting it to that could fail, that's not the awning's fault. So, yes, we did look at that. What Ben presented on ease of setup and everything all integrated and that extra security. For peace of mind, I choose one with the poles, just purely because I can anchor it down and walk away from the vehicle, and hopefully it's not folded up on top of it, which could occur with a freestanding.
Which, full disclaimer, when I was 18 years old, P-plater, I 100% had an awning fly over. I didn't take it down, so I'm not completely free of this, but that was it can happen, right? So
it's just a massive umbrella, right? Like it's the common sense comes into play there, and you think if a big gust comes up, then it's going to have to be some significant engineering that goes into making sure nothing breaks here.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, obviously you've been an 18-year-old P-plater who's, I'm assuming, cranking around Fraser Island, being an absolute terror with your squad. How much do you sort of factor in those users of your camp gear when you're designing products? Like, do you consider how it's going to be used and the potential issues people might come up with?
Yeah, I think without going back to freestanding, I think that's kind of point in case is generally people are using them, for a fair chunk of time on the beach where there's a high chance that you're going to get some kind of wind. And I think all of those things form part of our, NPD process is going, who's buying it? And then it's like, where are they going to use it? And is that a really rainy place or is it a really windy place? If so, what do we need to do to ensure this? So short answer is yes, absolutely considered. It does come down to the consumer to go how much money they're willing to part with, and that's obviously a key part, and something in all of our job to make sure we've try to have something for everyone, but we're not always going to be something for everyone as well, nor do we want to be.
Mm-hmm.
So it may not be for someone who only wants to part with a certain amount of dollars. However, as we touched on before with airbed to self-inflating, no disrespect to airbed users.
Few and far between these days.
I want to spend $200 or $300, and they might go, look, I want to spend $300 or $1,000 or whatever it may be on an awning, and I want to make sure it has these three features. So, yeah.
All right, rooftop tents. Are you happy to move on?
Yeah, I think so, because I think rooftop. It's a good. Can I start with a question on rooftop tents?
Yeah, go for it.
It's a space. It's a little bit like the Ford Holden or the fridge debate, right? There's some brands that kind of stand out, and if we go back to the 18-year-old P-plater hooking around and his mates have got these certain brands, there's a brand recognition. They want to be seen with the same things on their car, and it's a new space for Oztrail, right? And from what I can see with your range, you've come in really well because it looks really good. The colours and things you've used, particularly the canning with the kind of bronze colours you've added in there. What was your take on that coming into this new category to try and hit on those people who might not normally think Oztrail for a rooftop tent? Sorry.
Yeah, I think those two main pillars like quality and comfort you'll see across all of them. To go, quality doesn't necessarily just have to be the product. It's like, how is it going to look? So if you had a light grey versus a dark grey or a black or a white or whatever it is, so. Kudos to our graphic design team, because I worked with them for a long time to get the colour right, to go, oh, hey, can you do this version of? And like, yeah, okay, let's do this. And, there was a lot of work behind the scenes that goes into getting that right. Cool. All right, let's move to the next part and getting fabric swatches and making sure that this matches that. Colour was a big one. I think function, as we kind of moved into rooftops, at the time, looking at the market, there was a lot of traditional A style hard shell rooftop tents with a lot of brands, obviously very popular. And we're like, well, how do we make ours different? How do we make it better? And that's where that 4-point X style frame came in, where we're like, well, not only does it give you more internal space, especially for people that are a little bit taller and don't want to have to tuck their feet in, it gives you a lot more ventilation. So that was a lot of hard work to kind of go, where do we put it? Does it go inside? Does it go outside? Where does it sit? And there was, a bunch of work to get that right. And, where we kind of ended was having it on the inside, which a little bit different to, I guess, what you're probably seeing in the market nowadays. And, the reason behind that is that it brings the strap onto the inside of the tent, right? So if you look at
the gas strut itself.
Yeah, the gas strut itself. A lot of them, or pretty much all tents, have it on the outside, which is cool. However, if you're only using the tent I don't know, say 8 times or 10 times a year, whatever it may be, but your strut is exposed to all weather, sun, rain, mud, grit, all year round. And not to say they will fail, it's just like anything. If you put it outside, it's going to obviously potentially wear quicker.
Yep.
And we're like, what if we put it on the inside and it doesn't have any kind of exposure to that, even if when it's set up? Albeit there's a little bit more tucking involved, because I know there's always a bit of like, if you look online, Facebook groups, but you got to, what if you do this? And it's like, well, there's always going to be a, impact to any decision you make, right? And we're like, no, I think that outweighs that. So just take the extra 30 seconds, whatever it may be, to make sure that you get it all tucked away, which you should be doing anyway, to be honest.
Yeah, I was going to say it's some anything that sort of makes you put a little bit more attention into how you pack up your gear is not necessarily a bad thing.
No, that's right. And without sounding too cowboy, it just looks way better. Like, to be honest, like it
does look really good.
One of the points we had, for a bit further in the convo was a review that sidetracked Australia. So they're South Australian based as well.
We know and love them.
Yep.
You know them, yeah. So they did an independent review. There wasn't any like money. It was just purely, hey, here's one. Can you just use it for a bit and be like, tell us what you think? And I'm just quoting that. That's what he said in his review. Was it looks way better than anything that he's used. So, yeah.
Let's walk back to the colours, because obviously
big
your old sort
book.
of – it is big in my book because but do you know what though? Like if I've got 2 products that tick all of my features boxes.
And one looks better.
I'm going with the one that looks better
absolutely.
every day of the week. Yeah, there's no question.
I'm with you there.
So pretty much everything else that you're sort of in the market that you're now sitting against goes with the greens and the car keys. And it's like yours is bloody hot looking, but it's a bold choice. Was that sort of like, how did you guys, I guess it's a risk. I want to know how you guys committed to that risk and what that sort of argument was.
Yeah, so I guess it came down to a dark green that you see in some of our other like fast frame and stretcher tent products, and then we'd already had some kind of attachment to our higher end fast frame series using the darker greys, and general feedback from market and internally with that, it greys. Well, that particular grey looks premium, it looks nice, it looks like it does the part, and to be honest, it came down to dark green, dark grey. What do you want to do? And I just made a call and went, I think that looks better. And it's different to the rest of the market. Let's roll with it, and that's kind of what it boiled down to be honest.
And to be honest, all the feedback that Ben received was, yeah, you're right, it looks heaps better.
Yeah.
And I guess that's one thing that we don't intend to do is just be a me too. We try to innovate when we can, and we'll take a risk. But it wasn't much of a risk when you see it in person and go, oh, that does look shit hot. So
yeah. Definitely.
For those who are wondering what we're looking at here, this is the Oztrail Overlander Range, and in particular the Canning rooftop tent. So if you haven't looked already, jump on our website now and have a look, because it is a really nice looking rooftop tent.
And you've also got the Tarkine and Birdsville. Is that correct? Do you want to just give us a quick? Because I mean, from my perspective, I'd say your Canning's, you're like leader in that range. So that's why we've put a bit of time onto that. But run us over the other 2 models that you've got.
Yes, I guess, really quickly, we've got our Tarkine, which is our entry level into that space, which is a soft shell style rooftop tent. So, I guess more suited for cars that don't have the load rating or a tub rack or whatever it may be, or, some people just want a bit more space because they are a little bit wider than a traditional hard shell.
Yeah.
And, similar to, we touched on comfort, like it's a really nice flannelette topper on it. And then it comes with the anti-condensation mat. So there's all these little things where it's like, rather than sell it for an extra amount of dollars, we're like, what if we actually engineer it to come as a stock standard and go, most people buy them because you need them for all these reasons why, and let's just include it as part of the kit. And we understand there'll be an extra $100, $200, but you get all this, these features.
Yeah.
And then into the Birdsville, where a little bit different kind of rest of market, being a soft shell rooftop tent when it's packed up in size, however, has a hard top. and come with 2 roof bars. So it's really, really suited for tub rack owners, where typically when you put a soft shell on a tub rack, you lose not all, but most of your function with, putting your surfboard or gazebo or whatever it may be on your tub rack.
Yep.
So because it comes with the hard top and the bars, you kind of gain that function back without sacrificing space or the ability to have a rooftop. So it kind of sat in between on purpose between the soft and the hard by having a bit of a hybrid.
So before we move on to swags, I just want to really quickly throw the question of the future of rooftop tents with you, because I know, another brand has recently put out a brand new tent which is pushing close to sort of 100 kilos all round, really. And then you've got another brand that's putting out one that's sub 40 minus the ladder. So you've got 2 very different directions that rooftop tents are heading. Where do you see the future of it going?
Yeah, I think it's hard to give you a direct answer because it really depends on the consumer and the setup. Because, for me, if your car and you don't have a massively jacked up vehicle that's got a 4-inch lift and all these other things, not that that's a bad thing, you generally have to buy a lighter weight tent to suit your car load rating and your roof rack system. So I think you kind of got to have a bit of both, because the heavier ones generally have like a honeycomb floor, which is stronger and have that, that feature. And it may include a 4-point frame like the X frame to give it extra height. So, and, can you mount stuff onto the lighter one? So I think there's a lot of factors depending on the consumer. So I think doing your research is really important on a consumer level to go, what car do I have? Cool. What is my roof rated to? Cool. What is my roof rack rated to, and what does that weigh? And then work the math out and go, actually, my rack's not suited to the 100-kilo one. However, it's suited to this 40-kilo one, and that'll help narrow down their focus. And there may not be something in our range to suit that consumer, and that's okay, because I think, again, we're not trying to tick every box.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think that's...
Yeah, I agree, Ben. So there is a place for that lightweight rooftop tent. I'm sure you'll see more of those hit the market, and that's not to say that we won't play in that space at some stage as well. We just want to make sure that we're not making compromises to the product that we're not willing to stand by either, because you have to weigh up the pros and cons of everything. We're really happy with where we currently sit, but you will see evolution of our range over time, and who knows what that could look like.
Yeah. Nice.
Before we go to swags, can I ask, whose is the defender in the marketing material? Because I really like those cars.
That's a buddy of mine. So all the cars and the photos are all, hey, mate, you reckon we can borrow your car for this? We'll give you a free awning or something. They're like, yeah.
Hey, I didn't get anything.
Oh, you got an awning. Thank you. So no, that's a buddy of mine, and was an absolute pleasure to drive, to be honest.
I'll get the Lego version of it. That's probably the closest I'm ever going to get.
The cars all looked pretty clean, though. Yeah. That's what I want to say. It's a bit unrealistic, guys. Come on.
Just strategically splat them right down the sides.
Yeah. Anyway,
moving on to swags.
Yes. Now, the Sundowner, the 1550 is one that I personally love. And when we got that into the range, I think initially it was a little bit sort of slow because people new colour, sort of a bit of a different design, Oztrail. But then once we started to sell them, they sold real quick, and we even had to sell our display model because they were really popular, and I personally love them. So talk to me about the swags, Ben, because I know that you feel excited about them.
Yeah. I mean, it took a lot of time to get it right. A lot of iterations of, and shape and size and colour and everything else. And there were some things we weren't going to compromise on. So like heavy duty ripstop canvas was a must in a 420 GSM spec. Same for the flooring. We're like, it needs to be 600 GSM and it needs to be elevated so that water doesn't come gushing in through that seam. Mattress needs to be comfortable. Obviously, it's around that price point, but just all around good experience for our consumer. So like, great, tick, tick, tick. And then we're like, all right, now that we got that nailed, what else can we do to this thing to make it better? And we're like, shape. Obviously having that third pole through the middle with the joiner on the side, which you're probably better off having a look at a photo to help articulate that. But obviously it gives a lot more space inside, but obviously makes it stronger by removing all the tension onto the corner bits, which is generally, if a swag does break or a pole snaps, that's generally where the most amount of tension is. So we're like, let's reinforce that area. Ventilation, because not everyone uses a swag under an awning or a gazebo. They, can use it out in the open, which, that's what they're designed for as well. But ventilation is really key. So having gusseted windows, by allowing airflow into the swag, even having the sides zipped up. And then equally having a canvas on the inside. So typically on swag, you'll see a window and you may not always get an internal canvas flap. So that way you can help regulate temperature a bit more. So if it is getting a little bit too cold, you don't have to go around the outside and close it off. You can just simply do it up from the inside. Comfort. So the flannelette cover, which was a swag first. So carrying across what we've kind of got in our rooftops, which is generally that luxe feel, because it's a bit nicer on skin, like, hey, let's do it in a swag because it's better. So we've done that. Storage, so 6-panel storage system, which you typically see in rooftops to, put your phone, wallet, snacks, iPad in the PVC area. We're like, cool, let's do that in the swag. Because who doesn't want to watch a movie late at night when you kind of, go to bed or whatever.
Yep.
And then, lastly, and definitely not, least, is the internal lighting. So, everyone's kind of been in a swag and you're like, oh, where do I hang my lantern or my torch? And, you get your phone light out or whatever it is. And we're like, cool, why don't we bring some of our Lumos technology over and stitch the lighting in and just run it off a USB, and then you just turn it on and you take that annoyance away.
For me, he's just created the perfect swag. You missed one point though, Ben, which is my biggest bugbear in this industry is repacking gear into the bag it came in.
Yep.
I cannot stand a tight bag. So Ben purposely made an oversized bag, took the hit on us that it's going to cost us more to do so, but once again, it makes the experience so much better. So I leave my sleeping bag and pillow in the swag, and it still falls into the bag. So it just makes the experience so much better.
Such a good idea. Oversized storage bags. Simple, but yeah, great idea.
Oh, so good.
One of the things that I like about it is the poles that you've done with the swags. I think a lot of really common issues that people have are those poles snapping, and when you're setting up the swag, it's really hard to get that tension right across the pole so there's not a stress point. But you guys have got like a nylon knuckle on each of those poles that it slips into, so those actual join points.
Yeah, that's what they were touching on before, because I think previously there's just an aluminium.
So, but I really want to highlight that, because some other brands have gone from using those aluminium poles onto using something like a composite pole, which generally is a bit more reliable, like your more traditional dome tent type fiberglassy composite poles. But you guys have come up with a really simple solution to keep those alley poles, but to basically eliminate any issues with that tensioning.
As I kind of touched on, that's generally where a lot of the tension is. And, to be honest, some of that is when consumers may not be setting up the swag properly either, where they feed the swag pole in on one side and they might have 80% of it still left on the other side of the swag, and then they do that and, it snaps here. So I think part of that is probably, some people just feeding it through a little bit more so that it eliminates the tension. But yeah, that ferrule, which is made out of alloy, will help with a bit of that. And one of the points I didn't touch on before is speed of setup. So you can leave the poles threaded through the top hoop.
Okay.
And then, roll it up, with everything else in there, albeit don't make it super tight, which thanks to the bag, you don't need to, just so you don't accidentally cut anything. But when you do unroll it, because the poles are already inside, you just fold and put it into the bottom pins and you're on. So it takes out that, it may only be a minute, but I mean, a minute's a minute. So.
And also that point addresses what you brought up before, Lauren, on what do we take into account when we talk about the 18-year-old P-plater that just banging stuff together by designing the swag so you can't over stress the poles. It just removes a little bit of user elements out of it. So the amount of thought that has gone into this range is, I think, second to none.
Yes.
Awesome.
I would agree, particularly with the swags. I really like them. Like, I'm not a swag camper, but I would definitely – the 1550 is very schmick.
I haven't actually lied in one yet, to be honest with you, but looking at the range, I know I was really excited when you guys showed us initially. And, I mean, check them out online. They do look really good.
The other thing I want to highlight as well, which I am particularly excited about with the 1550 is this Oztrail talking about how great the swags are, or is this me talking about how great? Do you want to give me a job, guys?
That's you.
Yeah, how much are you going to pay me? No. So other swag like that, your traditional double swag, or not traditional, but classically when you're looking at a double swag on the market, it's 1400 wide. There are a couple that you can get that are at that 1550 wide, but they are a octagonal shape, which means if you want to upgrade your mattress, it can make it really hard to fit a standard sort of self-inflating mat in there because of those corners. But what I love about what you've done with this one, Ben, is that it's fully rectangular. So no matter what mattress you put in there, you're not going to have any issues at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a really, really key point, and it pairs perfectly well with our Fat Mat 1500
Nice.
ultimate setup, and then along with our Drover sleeping bags as well, because it's all the right size. It all packs away neater. There's no wastage in terms of having it 1800 wide or whatever it is. It's having it in that shape, which again, it's like how do we be better? How do we make it more functional, more comfortable? That was another.
It's a super valid point. So the mattress that's in it is super comfortable. However, my wife doesn't go camping. She doesn't like camping. Throw a fat mat in it and she sleeps like she's at home. So it's super comfortable. And just on those bent for rules that create those more vertical walls, when you've got two people sitting in it, you can both sit up and not hit your head on the corner of the swag as well. So the amount of space within the swag, to me, it's second to none.
It's a pretty comfy setup, a 1550 swag with the fat mat, which is a 15 centimetre mat, and a Drover sleeping bag inside. Sleep comfortably anyway.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
Absolutely.
And so for people who maybe don't have a massive full drive, they don't have a 240 awning, they don't want to carry a big gazebo, you've got an addition for your swags that can really make swag camping versatile. I noticed that you've not just got one for your Overland range, but you've also brought out another universal, and that's like a fly sheet for swags, right?
Yeah, that's right. So we brought them out in two colours because we're like, not everyone has an Oztrail swag or wants to buy one, and that's okay. And they might have a green swag for their own reason. So we're like, we need to have both. The one in the Overlander range does have our blockout coating on there, so you get all the benefits of that with regulating temp and blocking light. But yeah, that next to the swags and probably the canning was the ones that I had the most fun with designing, because we were like, cool, it's a bit of canvas. How do we make it as most universal as possible? So, and there was nothing else like it on the market. So it's a bit of canvas, so 280 GSM ripstop canvas that has multiple attachment points. So you can clip it onto your swag pole that runs across the top, and then hook it onto the spigots on the end, so the pointy bits, and then adjust the tension as needed. And then you can either run it out as a massive awning. You can have it as a half height if you're worried about the weather. You can join it between two swags. So if you and a buddy are heading away and you just want to have a real minimalist setup, just clip it onto the mirrored side. It also has a sail track attachment stitched into it. So if you do have a normal side awning, or it may even be a caravan awning, you can slide that side in, and kind of the thinking behind it was that you can walk from your awning and kind of dip under the awning into your swag, so you kind of like covered area, sleep.
For those who are listening to this and not sort of watching it, where we're going to have some overlay of what we're talking about here, it really, when I first saw it, it really reminded me of the Oz 10 RV series, with how they have that awning out the front, and it creates that versatility in the sense that you can have that straight out awning, you can have it as a peaked awning, you can have it attaching to a vehicle or a caravan edge or whatever, and it really does really maximizes
enhances the livability.
The
of
livability
the space, except this is for your swag.
Of your swag. Yeah.
Yeah. So just for those following on at home, it's called the Universal Swag Awning. We didn't cover that before. And yeah, it is an amazing bit of kit just for, I guess, a piece of canvas. So it does genuinely change how you can set up your camp with your swag. And I use it with the awning off the side of the vehicle, and it's amazing.
Nice one.
Cool. I think, have you guys got any other secrets you want to cover off on your swags
anything
before
with the Overlander range or anything you want to?
Maybe what's coming next. I don't know. There's always plenty of new stuff coming.
That was going to be our next question. What's on the horizon before we wrap up?
What does Michael want to add to his camping kit that he's making everyone produce?
Well, that's a great question.
I've just had to do a big cull because I've got too much gear, so I have to get approval from the wife before I have any input.
So what's on the horizon then? Any secrets you can let out of the bag? Hints?
Well, it's interesting. Ben brings it up, and yet we have to bite our tongues. But watch this space. One thing that you and the consumers will be accustomed to and will continue to see us to do is to launch new products and new ranges and advances to existing product and ranges over the years to come. Got a new range of, are we allowed to say what they are?
Fast frame tents.
Fast frame tents that are about
the bag.
So look, they're just around the corner, and then being the category manager for tents has put even more work into what we could do with our existing really popular range of fast frame tents to take them to the next level. And I can't wait to see them out in market.
Yeah, me too.
That was awesome. I think we've been talking for over an hour, but that was a great conversation, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of listeners probably loaded with more questions. So we'll be sure to answer them, but if we can't, we'll
I think the key one for this range in particular is really get into the local Snowy's store if you can, and actually touch and feel them. It's one thing to see them, even though my screen's probably gone black behind me, see them on a vehicle on a screen, which they look amazing. But when you actually get up close and personal, you realise it's not just another swag. It's not just a rooftop tent.
Yep. And you guys do it really well on your website too. So we've got them on the Snowy's website. Check out the Oztrail website as well.
Yeah.
Lots of awesome detail on there.
Michael and Ben, thanks so much for joining us today. I hope we get to spend some more time with you in the future, maybe covering some other content. But I really appreciate being able to pick your brains about Oztrail today.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys. Nice to be here.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Awesome. That was great.
It was great. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to that episode as much as we enjoyed hosting it. And it was a really great conversation. I always love having great guests on where you can really sort of flesh things out and ask great questions.
Any questions, really let us know. Answers. Because we'd love to get Michael and Ben on again in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll take note of any of your queries or unanswered questions and keep them in a notebook.
Yep.
For a future episode.
No worries. Thanks so much for listening, guys. We'll catch you again next fortnight.
See you later.